In the middle of World War II, a young naval lieutenant was asked how he became a war hero. His reply was highly sarcastic, deeply humble, and completely accurate. "It was involuntary. They sunk my boat." But behind that dry humor lies one of the most harrowing survival stories of World War II. It's the story of an unproven, sickly 26-year-old lieutenant thrust into a literal nightmare. A wooden boat split in two, a sea of burning aviation fuel, and a crew stranded in enemy-controlled waters. This is the story of Lieutenant John F. Kennedy and the disaster of PT-109. Our story begins on the night of August 1st, 1943, in the Solomon Islands. Lieutenant John F. Kennedy, just 26 years old, is at the helm of PT-109, a fast, wooden patrol torpedo boat. His mission is to intercept and torpedo heavily armed Japanese destroyers on supply runs. But the conditions that night are a captain's worst nightmare. One crewman, Barney Ross, later recalled, "It was as dark as if you were in a closet with the door shut, no moon, no stars." Making things worse, out of their four-boat squad, only one had radar, and it had already sped off to chase another target, leaving PT-109 completely blind in the dark. To avoid detection by enemy planes, the PT boats crawled through the water at low speeds. They had to be extremely careful. The tropical waters were thick with phosphorescent plankton, and even a tiny wake would glow like a green target for bombers above. Kennedy had throttled down to just one active engine to remain quiet. Just days earlier, Japanese bombers had nearly destroyed his boat, injuring two of his men, so the fear was fresh. Suddenly, a voice breaks the silence. "Ship at 2 o'clock!" Out of the ink-black night, a massive shape appears. At first, the crew thinks it's another friendly PT boat, but within seconds, they see the towering black steel hull of a 388-foot Japanese destroyer, the Amagiri. It is just 200 yards away, steaming at full speed directly toward them. Kennedy frantically orders battle positions and tries to spin the boat to fire a torpedo, but with only one engine running, there is simply no power and no time. With a sickening crash, the massive steel destroyer slices the wooden PT-109 completely in half. Kennedy was thrown violently against the deck, severely injuring his already weak back. As he fell, he thought to himself, "So this is what it's like to die." Two of his 13 crewmen were killed instantly in the collision. The rest were scattered across the pitch-black water. Engineer Johnston was sucked under by the destroyer's massive propellers, beaten like a heavyweight prizefighter, and miraculously spit back up. Engineer McMahon was trapped below decks when the reserve fuel ignited, suffering agonizing, severe burns to his face and arms before escaping. Kennedy, a former Harvard swim team member, immediately went to work. He swam through the dark, gasoline-slicked waters, personally pulling and guiding 11 survivors back to the still-floating bow of the wrecked PT-109. By dawn, they were alone, stranded in the middle of a hostile, enemy-controlled sea. With no rescue in sight, Kennedy gathered his exhausted, injured crew and did something unusual for a military commander. He took a democratic vote. He asked them, "If the Japanese come after us, do you want to fight or do you want to surrender?" The crew responded, "It's up to you, boss." They couldn't stay on the wreck. It was slowly sinking. Kennedy pointed to a tiny speck on the horizon, a 3-mile swim away. It was a deserted rock called Plum Pudding Island, but McMahon was too badly burned to swim. In one of the most legendary acts of heroism in naval history, Kennedy, despite his own excruciating back injury, cut a strap from McMahon's life jacket and clamped it between his teeth. For the next 4 to 5 hours, Kennedy swam breaststroke across the open ocean, pulling McMahon's dead weight behind him. When they finally crawled onto the sharp sand of Plum Pudding Island, Kennedy became violently ill from swallowing seawater and collapsed in total exhaustion. They had survived the swim, but they had zero food, no fresh water, and were surrounded by Japanese garrisons. At their base in Rendova, they had already been given up for dead. Stranded and desperate, Kennedy refused to just sit and wait. That first night, he tied a pistol around his neck, grabbed a heavy lantern, and swam back out into the pitch-black Ferguson Passage, hoping to signal a passing American patrol boat. Instead, a rogue current swept him away. He spent the entire night floating in the cold, dark ocean, convinced he was going to die. Only another current at dawn washed him back. He had to walk barefoot over razor-sharp coral reefs just to get back to his men, shredding his feet. Realizing Plum Pudding had no food, Kennedy convinced the starving men to swim 3 hours to another island, further out, which had coconuts. Once again, JFK towed McMahon with his teeth. They reached what they called Bird Island, aptly named because it was covered in bird poop. The next morning, they realized they had been drinking rainwater off leaves covered in bird droppings, but at least they had coconuts to eat. On August 5th, 4 days after their boat was destroyed, they caught their first break. While looking for food, Kennedy spotted 2 native Solomon Islanders. They were Allied scouts. The Islanders couldn't speak English, but through gestures, they understood the Americans needed help. Kennedy grabbed a smooth coconut and carved a message into the shell with his pocket knife. Noro ISL Commander. Native knows Posit. He can pilot. 11 alive needs small boat. Kennedy. The scouts took the coconut, paddled through enemy waters, and handed it to a New Zealand patrol. By August 8th, at 11:30 p.m., a full week after they were sunk, a rescue boat finally arrived. When the rescue boat pulled up, Kennedy, true to form, yelled out, "Where the hell have you been?" The rescue crew replied, "We got some food for you." Kennedy shot back, "No thanks, I just had a coconut." That carved coconut shell survived the war too. JFK had it preserved and mounted as a paperweight, and for 1,036 days, it sat on the Resolute desk in the Oval Office. JFK's war hero reputation paved the path for his political rise, helping him win his first seat in Congress in 1946. But in private, he carried a deep, quiet guilt. He felt responsible for the loss of his 2 crewmen. Yet, the crucible of the Pacific changed him forever. Reflecting on it, Kennedy once said, "I firmly believe that as much as I was shaped by anything, so I was shaped by the hand of fate moving in World War II. The war made us. It was and is our single greatest moment." What would you do if you were in JFK's shoes that dark night? Let us know in the comments below.